There is something about the morning that most people underestimate. It looks ordinary, quiet, slow, almost harmless. But the truth is, your morning is not just the start of your day, it is the architect of your future. What you repeatedly do in those first waking moments is not just a habit, it is a decision about the direction of your life. And here's the uncomfortable part. Many people are not building their future consciously. They are leaking it away unconsciously, one morning at a time. You don't lose your destiny in one dramatic moment. You lose it in small repeated patterns that feel normal. So if you're serious about becoming who you were created to be, then you don't just need new habits. You need the courage to delete the wrong ones. Because some habits don't just slow you down, they quietly take control. The moment you wake up is not just a biological event, it is a transfer of power. Power over your thoughts, your focus, your energy, your direction. And whether you realize it or not, something or someone will take control of that power within the first few minutes of your day. The tragedy is that most people give it away freely, casually, unconsciously. You open your eyes, and before your mind has even fully awakened, your hand reaches for your phone. Not because you thought about it, not because you decided it, but because you have been trained to do it, conditioned, programmed. And in that simple, almost invisible act, you surrender the most valuable asset you have, your attention. Understand this, your attention is not cheap. It is not casual. It is the currency of your life. Wherever your attention goes, your energy follows. And wherever your energy flows, your life begins to grow. So, when your morning begins with notifications, messages, social media feeds, and endless scrolling, you are not just checking your phone, but you are investing your life into things that have no intentional return for your purpose. You are allowing other people's priorities, other people's opinions, other people's demands to become the foundation of your day. Before you have even asked yourself, what matters to me today? And you have already answered the world's questions. And then you wonder why you feel scattered, why your mind feels heavy, why your focus is weak, why your day seems to slip away without progress. It is because you started your day as a consumer instead of a creator. You see, there is a difference between reacting to life and directing life. And that difference is often decided in the first 15 minutes after you wake up. When you react, you surrender control. When you direct, you take ownership. Most people live reactive lives. They wake up and immediately check what they missed. Who texted them? What is trending? What happened overnight? And in doing so, they put themselves in a position of response instead of leadership. But you were not created to respond to everything. You were created to lead something. And leadership begins with self-governance. If you cannot govern your own attention in the morning, you will struggle to govern your day. If you cannot control what enters your mind at the beginning, you will struggle to control what comes out of your life at the end. Because the morning is not just about time, it is about influence. Whatever influences you first has a disproportionate impact on how you think, how you feel, and how you act for the rest of the day. If the first thing you see is chaos, your mind absorbs chaos. If the first thing you see is comparison, your mind begins to measure itself. If the first thing you see is negativity, your mind begins to anticipate problems. And the dangerous part is it feels normal. Scrolling feels harmless. Just a few minutes, you tell yourself. Just checking in, just staying updated. But there is no such thing as just when it comes to your mind. Every piece of information you consume is shaping you. Every image, every headline, every comment, it is feeding your subconscious. And your subconscious does not filter what is important and what is not. It simply absorbs. So, when you flood it with noise at the beginning of your day, you are setting yourself up for distraction before you even begin. Clarity cannot survive in a noisy mind. And yet so many people wake up and immediately invite noise into their consciousness. They don't give themselves space to think, space to reflect, space to align with who they want to be. Instead, they fill that space with endless input. And then they complain about feeling overwhelmed. But overwhelm is not always caused by having too much to do. It is often caused by having too much in your mind. And your morning determines how crowded your mind will be. There is a reason why high-performing individuals guard their mornings. It is not because they have more time. It is because they understand understand the value of uninterrupted focus at the beginning of the day. They know that the quality of their thinking determines the quality of their decisions, and the quality of their decisions determines the quality of their life. So they protect their thinking by protecting their attention. They don't wake up and immediately plug into the world. They wake up and tune into themselves. They take a moment to breathe, to think, to center, to ask what matters today, what must be done. Who do I need to be? Because before you can manage your time, you must manage your mind. And you cannot manage your mind if you are constantly feeding it external distractions. You must learn to sit with your own thoughts. And that is something many people avoid. Silence makes them uncomfortable. Stillness feels unfamiliar. So they reach for their phone, not just out of habit, but out of escape. Because when the noise stops, they are left with themselves. And that is a place many people have not learned to navigate. But your future is not built in distraction. It is built in clarity. And clarity requires stillness. It requires moments where you are not reacting, not consuming, not scrolling, but thinking, reflecting, deciding. Those first few minutes in the morning are an opportunity to align your mind with your purpose, to remind yourself of your goals, to set an intention for how you will show up. But if you give that time away, you lose that opportunity. And what you lose in the morning, you will spend the rest of the day trying to recover. You will try to regain focus, regain clarity, regain motivation. But it will feel harder because you started in a state of distraction. It is much easier to maintain focus than to recover it. So the decision you make in the first moments of your day is not small. It is foundational. You are either building momentum or breaking it. And let's be honest, this is not about your phone. The phone is just a tool. The real issue is discipline. Bamatseti Khan, the discipline to say, I will not allow anything to control my mind before I do. The discipline to resist the urge to check, to scroll, to react. The discipline to prioritize your inner world before engaging with the outer world. Because if your inner world is not stable, the outer world will shake you. You will be easily distracted, easily influenced, easily overwhelmed. But when you take control of your attention first, something powerful happens. You begin your day with intention. You choose your focus instead of inheriting it. You decide your mindset instead of absorbing it. And that changes everything. Because success is not just about what you do. It is about how you think while you are doing it. And your thinking is shaped by what you feed your mind. So if you feed it distractions, you get scattered thinking. If you feed it purpose, you get focused thinking. And focused thinking produces results. So the question is not whether you will use your phone. Of course you will. The question is when. Will you use it after you have taken control of your mind, or will you use it before and allow it to take control of you? Because timing matters. What you do first matters. You must learn to delay access to distractions until you have established direction. Give yourself time in the morning where you are unavailable to the world but fully available to yourself. Even if it is just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. In that time, think, reflect, plan, speak positively to yourself. Visualize your goals. Set your intentions. Use that time to build your mind before the world tries to shape it. Because if you don't build your mind, the world will shape it for you. And the world does not shape with your purpose in mind. It shapes with noise, comparison, urgency, and distraction. So you must be intentional. You must decide that your morning is not for consumption. It is for creation. Creation of your mindset. Creation of your focus. Creation of your direction. Because before you create anything in your life, you must create it in your mind. And your morning is where that creation begins. So delete the habit of reaching for your phone the moment you wake up. Not because the phone is bad, but because your purpose is greater. Not because information is harmful, but because your attention is valuable. Not because you need to disconnect from the world, but because you need to connect with yourself first. Take back control of your attention. Guard it, protect it, direct it, because your attention is your life in its most usable form. And if you allow it to be controlled by everything around you, you will always feel like your life is out of control. But when you take ownership of it, when you decide where it goes, when it goes, and why it goes there, you begin to live with intention. And intention is what separates those who drift from those who build. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off and your hand instinctively reaches for your phone, pause just for a moment and ask yourself, do I want to start my day by reacting or by leading? By because that one decision repeated daily will shape more of your future than you realize. Waking up without direction is one of the most subtle forms of self-sabotage because it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels normal. It feels flexible. It even feels freeing at times. You tell yourself, I'll just go with the flow, not realizing that a life without direction is not freedom. It is drift. And drift never takes you somewhere meaningful. When you open your eyes in the morning without a clear sense of purpose for the day, you are stepping into hours that have already been claimed by distraction, interruption, and reaction. You may not see it immediately, but you feel it by the end of the day. That quiet frustration of being busy without being effective, active without being intentional, exhausted without being fulfilled. That feeling is not accidental. It is the natural consequence of starting without direction. You see, every single day is a unit of life, not just time, but life in its most practical form. And what you do with that day contributes directly to who you become. The problem is many people treat their days casually while expecting their lives to turn out intentionally. That is a contradiction. A meaningful life is not built on random days. It is built on deliberate ones. When you wake up without direction, you are essentially saying anything can happen today and I will respond as it comes. The South. That may sound adaptable, but in reality, it puts you at the mercy of everything around you. Other people's demands, unexpected tasks, low priority activities that feel urgent but add no real value. And because there is no defined structure, everything begins to feel equally important. So you spend time answering messages that didn't matter. You engage in conversations that didn't move you forward. You handle tasks that didn't require your energy. And at the end of the day, you look back and wonder where the time went. Time didn't go anywhere. It was used, just not intentionally. Direction is what gives time meaning. Without it, time becomes something you pass through. With it, time becomes something you build with. And the morning is where that direction must be established. Not later in the day. Not when things get busy. Not when you find the motivation. It must be set at the beginning, before the noise begins, before the demands start pulling at you, before your energy gets divided. Because if you don't decide your priorities early, your priorities will be decided for you. And let's be honest, most of what demands your attention throughout the day is not aligned with your long-term growth. It is urgent, not important, immediate, but not meaningful. So, if you don't anchor yourself in what truly matters, you will be carried away by what simply shows up. That is why people feel like they are working hard but going nowhere. They are moving but not progressing, doing but not building. Because movement without direction is not progress, it is motion. And motion can be deceptive. It can make you feel productive when in reality you are just occupied. True productivity is not about how much you do. It is about how much of what you do actually matters. And you cannot identify what matters if you have not taken the time to think about it. That is what direction requires: thought. Intentional, focused thought about your day before it begins. What needs to be done today? Not everything, but the few things that truly matter. What actions will move your life forward? What responsibilities require your best energy? What must not be ignored? These are questions that demand answers before the day starts, not during. Because once the day begins, your environment will compete for your attention. And if you have not already decided what deserves your focus, you will give it to whatever is loudest, easiest, or most immediate. That is how days get wasted. Not through laziness, but through lack of clarity. Clarity is what filters your decisions. It helps you say yes to the right things and no to the distractions. It keeps you aligned when everything around you is pulling you in different directions. But clarity does not appear randomly. It is created deliberately. And the morning is your opportunity to create it. It doesn't require something complicated. You don't need a perfect system. You don't need hours of planning. You need intention. Even a few minutes of focused thinking can change the entire trajectory of your day. Just sitting with yourself and deciding these are the 3 things that matter most today. That alone creates direction. That alone sets a standard. That alone separates you from the majority of people who are simply reacting. Because when you have defined what matters, you begin to protect it. You become more aware of how you spend your time. You become more disciplined with your choices. You become less willing to entertain distractions that do not serve your purpose. Direction creates discipline, and discipline creates progress. But without direction, discipline feels impossible. Because what are you being disciplined toward? What are you protecting? What are you prioritizing? Without a clear target, your energy has no place to go. And energy without direction gets scattered. That is why you feel tired at the end of unplanned days. Not because you did too much, but because you did too many things that did not matter. Your energy was used, but not invested. There is a difference between spending energy and investing it. Spending leaves you drained with little return. Investing may still leave you tired, but it leaves you fulfilled because you know your effort contributed to something meaningful. And that difference is created by direction. When you wake up with direction, you move differently. You think differently. You decide differently. You are not easily pulled into distractions because you know what you are supposed to be doing. You are not easily overwhelmed because you have already simplified your focus. Your day begins to feel lighter, not because there is less to do, but because you are clear on what matters. Clarity reduces chaos, and chaos is often what people experience when they lack direction. They jump from one task to another. They start things but don't finish them. They feel pressure but can't identify why. They are constantly busy but rarely effective. And all of it traces back to one simple issue. They did not decide their day before it began. But here is something deeper you must understand. Direction is not just about tasks. It is about identity. Who do you need to be today? Not just what do you need to do, but who must you become in order to do it well? Do you need to be focused, disciplined, patient, courageous? Because your actions will always follow your identity. If you wake up and define your day only by tasks, you may complete them, but without growth. But if you define your day by who you need to be, your actions begin to align with your development. You don't just check off tasks, you evolve. And that is how real progress is made. Because success is not just about doing more. It is about becoming more, and becoming more requires intentional days. Days where you are not just existing, but building. Not just reacting, but directing. Not just passing time, but shaping it. So you must delete the habit of waking up without direction. Not because planning is perfect, but because drifting is costly. Every day you start without clarity is a day where your potential is underused. Your time is misallocated. Your energy is scattered. And while one day may not seem like much, repeated days become a pattern, and patterns become your life. Your future is not created in one moment. It is created in daily decisions. And one of the most important decisions you can make is how you begin your day. Will you leave it undefined, open to anything and everything? Or will you take a moment to define it, to shape it, to give it purpose? Because the difference between those two choices is the difference between living by default and living by design. And you were not created to live by default. You were created with intention, with purpose, with the ability to direct your life. But that direction must be practiced daily. It must be chosen every morning, even when you don't feel like it, even when you are tired, even when the day ahead seems uncertain. Because direction is not about having everything figured out. It is about deciding what matters right now. And that decision gives you power. Power over your time, power over your focus, power over your progress. So tomorrow morning, before you step into the demands of the day, pause, take a moment, and ask yourself, what must this day represent? What will I not compromise on? What truly matters? Write it down if you have to. Speak it out loud. Fix it in your mind, because once you decide, everything else becomes easier to navigate. Distractions lose their appeal. Unnecessary tasks lose their urgency. You begin to move with purpose, not pressure. And by the end of the day, you feel something different. Not just tired, but satisfied. Not just busy, but productive. Not just active, but aligned. And that feeling, that sense of alignment, is what comes from living with direction. A direction that begins every single day, the moment you wake up. There is a conversation happening in your life that no one else can hear, yet it shapes everything you do. It is not spoken out loud most of the time, but it is constant. It is the quiet dialogue you have with yourself the moment you wake up. Before the world speaks to you, you speak to you. And what you say in those first moments is not casual. It is not harmless. It is not insignificant. It is a declaration. It is a signal to your mind about how to interpret the day ahead. Most people never stop to examine that conversation. They wake up and the first words that form in their mind are rooted in how they feel, not in where they are going. I'm tired. I don't feel like getting up. So Marcel, this day is going to be stressful. Tansti, I have too much to deal with. And because these thoughts feel natural, they accept them as true. But feelings are not always truth. They are temporary signals. And if you build your morning on temporary feelings, you will create a permanent pattern of limitation. You must understand this. Your words are not just descriptions of your state. They are instructions to your mind. Your mind is always listening, always responding, always looking for direction. And when you consistently feed it language of weakness, it does not argue with you. It aligns with you. If you say, I'm tired, your mind begins to conserve energy. If you say, this will be hard, your mind begins to anticipate struggle. If you say, I can't do this, your mind stops looking for solutions. Because the mind follows the language you give it. That is why two people can face the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. One speaks limitation and becomes overwhelmed. The other speaks possibility and finds a way through. The difference is not the situation. It is the internal conversation. And that conversation begins in the morning. Before anything has happened, before any challenge has appeared, before any obstacle has presented itself, you have already set the tone. You have already framed your perspective. You have already decided, consciously or unconsciously, what kind of day this will be. And the dangerous part is most people let that decision be made by default. They wake up and immediately check how they feel. If they feel low, they assume the day will be low. If they feel unmotivated, they assume they will be unproductive. If they feel overwhelmed, they assume the day will confirm it. But your life is not meant to be led by your feelings. It is meant to be directed by your decisions. Feelings change, decisions anchor, and your morning is where that anchor must be set. Because once your day begins, your environment will try to reinforce whatever you have already declared internally. If you begin with negativity, you will notice more problems. You will interpret neutral situations as stressful. You will react more quickly, more emotionally, more defensively. But if you begin with strength, something shifts. You become more resilient, more focused, more intentional. Challenges don't disappear, but your response to them changes. And your response is what determines your outcome. So the question is not whether you will speak to yourself in the morning. You will. The question is, what will you say? Will you repeat the same limiting phrases that have kept you stuck? Or will you choose words that align with the person you are trying to become? Because your future does not respond to what you wish. It responds to what you consistently reinforce. And reinforcement happens through repetition. The words you say once may not seem powerful, but the words you say every day become your belief system. They become the lens through which you see yourself in the world. If every morning you reinforce weakness, doubt, and negativity, it will not stay at the level of thought. It will become identity. I'm always tired. I'm not disciplined. I'm not good enough. This is just how I am. And once something becomes identity, it becomes difficult to challenge, because now you are not just dealing with a thought, you are dealing with a belief about who you are. That is why you must interrupt this pattern early, at the level of your morning thoughts, at the level of your words. Because if you can change what you say to yourself consistently, you can change what you believe. And if you change what you believe, you change how you act. And if you change how you act, you change your results. It all begins with language. Now, this is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing a perspective that empowers you instead of limiting you. You may feel tired, but you don't have to declare defeat. You may feel pressure, but you don't have to predict failure. You may feel uncertain, but you don't have to speak doubt. Instead, you can say, I may feel tired, but I will still move forward. I have challenges, but I am capable of handling them. I will focus on what I can control. I will give my best today. These are not empty affirmations. They are intentional instructions. They tell your mind what to focus on. They direct your energy. They shape your behavior. And over time, they begin to reshape your identity. Because identity is not something you are born with. It is something you build through repeated thought and action. And your morning is where that construction begins every day. But let's be honest, this is not always easy. Negative thinking is often automatic. It is familiar. It is comfortable in a strange way because you have practiced it for so long. So changing it requires awareness. You have to catch yourself in the moment. The moment you wake up and your mind starts to drift toward complaint, pause. Notice it. Do not accept it immediately. Challenge it. Replace it. Because if you let it pass without awareness, it will continue to repeat. And repetition creates reality. This is why discipline in your thoughts is just as important as discipline in your actions. Because your actions will always follow your thoughts. You cannot consistently act in a way that contradicts what you believe about yourself. So if you believe you are weak, your actions will reflect it. If you believe you are capable, your actions will rise to meet it. And belief is built through language. The words you use are not random. They are building blocks. So you must choose them carefully, especially in the morning, because the morning is when your mind is most impressionable. It is transitioning from rest to awareness. It is open, receptive, ready to be shaped. And whatever you place there first has a lasting impact. So instead of allowing negativity to fill that space, you must take control of it. Speak life into your day. Speak clarity into your mind. Speak strength into your identity, even if you don't feel it immediately, because feelings follow focus. If you focus on limitation, you will feel limited. If you focus on possibility, you will begin to feel capable, and capability leads to action. Now, this does not mean every day will be easy. It does not mean you will never struggle. It does not mean you will always feel strong, but it means you are choosing not to reinforce weakness. You are choosing not to surrender before the day even begins. You are choosing to lead yourself, and leadership always begins with self. So delete the habit of speaking negativity into your morning. Not because words are magic, but because they are powerful. They shape your perception. They influence your decisions. They determine your direction. And when used intentionally, they can elevate you. But when used carelessly, they can limit you. So be intentional. Guard your thoughts. Direct your language. Take responsibility for the conversation happening within you. Because that conversation is not just noise. It is the blueprint of your life. And every morning you are given a new opportunity to rewrite it. To choose words that align with growth instead of fear. To declare strength instead of weakness. To set a tone of purpose instead of pressure. Because your day will follow your declaration and your life will follow your days. So when you wake up tomorrow, before you check your phone, before you think about your tasks, before you engage with the world, listen to your inner voice and then decide, will it be a voice that limits you or a voice that leads you?